Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is David Arons. I'm CEO of National Brain Tumor Society, and we appreciate seeing you. We're here today seeking attention for a public health problem that should be really near the top of everyone's priority list, and that is pediatric brain tumors. It's certainly not getting enough attention, and this video you just saw underscored that point. We're here because children are dying of brain tumors, and we don't currently have a true, consistent standard of care to treat many of these vulnerable patients, including those in pediatric high-grade gliomas. Pediatric brain tumors are the leading cause of cancer death in children 14 or under, and now surpass leukemia, and yet we don't have effective treatments for the most aggressive form of pediatric brain tumors, these high-grade gliomas. Over the past few decades, little progress has been made in the treatment of pediatric brain tumors, even though tremendous advances have been made across the rest of the pediatric cancer spectrum. The 5-year survival rate of kids with high-grade gliomas hovers between 15 and 30%, and many will receive prognoses measured in months and not years. For one type of pediatric brain tumor, called diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, or DIPG, patients die within the length of a standard school year, or 9 short months. School just started for most kids across the United States, and if a child was just diagnosed with a high-grade glioma, then that child could be gone before June. This is completely unacceptable. Even though pediatric brain tumors are the most prevalent cancer in children and adolescents, it is still considered a rare disease with a small enough patient population that does not get the investment these vulnerable patients deserve. Not from industry, not from government, and not from private sources, despite the best of intentions. Unfortunately, most treatments administered to children were not designed for the still developing brain and the specific genetic and molecular makeup of pediatric brain tumors. They were developed for adult disease. And we're here because too many patients, including parents, including Cord Shlobom, who you'll hear from, have lost their children to brain tumors. It is not fair, and it is, again, unacceptable. So what are we going to do about this problem? What are we going to do together? Our goal is to make history, and specifically to make pediatric brain tumors history. A couple of years ago, National Brain Tumor Society brought together stakeholders to discuss the barriers to pediatric brain tumor, pediatric cancer drug development, to try to make progress. There are friends of us here today that joined us in those conversations, such as Mike Quinn from the Friends for Michael Foundation. Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation also joined us, and many others. National Brain Tumor Society and its partners, including the St. Baldricks Foundation, are announcing now a research initiative with the goal of ultimately creating a first-ever standard of care for the most deadly pediatric brain tumors, and in the process, put us on the path toward making pediatric brain tumors a manageable and one day curable disease. In addition, National Brain Tumor Society is launching a fundraising campaign to support this research. Wouldn't it be wonderful if neuro-oncologists such as Dr. Roger Packer of Children's National Health System could look into the eyes of a child and her parents and say, you have a brain tumor, but we can effectively manage it, give the child a high quality of life, and potentially cure the cancer. Instead, these dedicated professionals agonize with the best way to tell the family what's going to happen and what strategies are available. The status quo, again, is unacceptable. Our audacious but doable goal is to create a new standard of care for pediatric high-grade gliomas and dramatically extend survival and lay the foundation for a new way of doing research for all of pediatric brain tumors. This initiative is called the Pediatric Brain Tumor Research Collaborative. The initiative includes world-renowned and respected scientists from leading institutions with support from patient advocacy organizations, through a results-oriented research infrastructure that will drive new discoveries toward a cure. Why is now the time for this kind of program? 3 reasons. 1 is scientific progress. We're doing this because all the challenges I noted before, never before in the history of mankind's battle with cancer has so much progress has been made as it has recently. The confluence of groundbreaking advances in the understanding of pediatric brain tumors, powered by the precision or personalized medicine era, including amazing genomic and technological innovations, have brought us to where we are today, facing the opportunity to employ all these discoveries, expertise, and technology to discover better treatments. Critical findings in recent years, including many funded by the National Brain Tumor Society, have finally positioned the field of pediatric brain tumors for an era of treatment and survival. The time is now. The second reason why this is the right time is because of collaboration. The entire cancer community is coming together to collaborate in new and more powerful ways. Look at today. We're joined by the St. Baldricks Foundation and joined by you here in this audience to talk about this cause and to lean in and fight together, to partner with biopharmaceutical companies to create new research paths that will lead to new treatments and a cure, especially for kids. You see the nonprofit sector, for-profit sector, and government all working together. Today's panel is a demonstration of the kind of collaboration that is essential for beating this disease, and we invite others to join us in this fight. Third, the third reason why we're doing this is because it's a priority. We should be doing this. And so today, we launch Project Impact, a campaign to defeat pediatric brain tumors. This funding campaign to support the Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumor Research Collaborative will initially raise a surge of $2.5 million with a goal of investing far more than $5 million from multiple sources in the program. And we seek to take that to scale, to make that even bigger. And this funding will launch scientific projects within different program areas or cores. Project Impact is a philanthropic investment in an opportunity to make a historic difference in the lives of children and change the way research is done by funding a true collaboration of research leaders. They'll be sharing data from the time that it's created, talking together real time, not waiting for discoveries 5 years to reach the clinic, but actually discovery laboratory researchers working with clinical trial leaders and clinical trial leaders working with laboratory discovery scientists real time to accelerate progress. The Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumor Research Collaborative creates an environment for researchers to develop potential treatments, build preclinical models, leverage innovative clinical trials, share information and data, and work together around the world. It's a global project, and to make more progress than ever before. We have engaged some of the most world-renowned pediatric brain tumor experts to make this happen, and I will be introducing 2 of them to you. But before I do this, I must say that National Brain Tumor Society and its partners have the experience and the ability to bring people together and the framework to help the researchers create these treatments. Through this campaign and research collaborative, I believe the Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumor Research Collaborative is poised to fundamentally and permanently change the trajectory of pediatric brain tumors. We're on the ground floor of an incredible opportunity. Our research program is solid and complete and ready to spring into action and drive new discoveries and treatments. And our amazing researchers and scientists are chomping at the bit to move forward. To anyone out there who wants to help confront America's deadliest childhood cancer, invest in a collaborative and innovative research model and foster the kind of teamwork necessary to ultimately find a cure. I ask for your support. I ask you to join us. Join us in this fight. Be part of this and invest in Project Impact. Now let me make speaker introductions. And you'll be hearing from these world-renowned researchers. You'll be hearing from a parent, 2 parents, and you'll be hearing from a partner organization in St. Baldrick's, the St. Baldricks Foundation, a proud partner. They will provide some more detail concerning the challenges that these pediatric brain tumor patients are facing, but also they will highlight the amazing opportunities before us. And if you're looking for where to go for more information, I'll repeat this at the end, is go to www.braintumor.org. You can find all the information you need about this exciting new effort. So with no further ado, I'm really excited to tell you about who we have as experts here today. Dr. Roger Packer is the scientific director for the Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumor Research Collaborative. Dr. Packer is the senior vice president of the Center for Neuroscience and Behavioral Medicine and director of the Gilbert Neurofibromatosis Institute, director of the Brain Tumor Institute at Children's National Health System, located here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Dr. Packer has been heavily involved in clinical and basic and applied research and has been fighting against pediatric brain tumors his entire career. No better leader for this project. Dr. Suzanne Baker, director of the Brain Tumor Research Division, co-leader of Neurobiology and the Brain Tumor Program, the Endowed Chair in Brain Tumor Research at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, is a key principal investigator of this initiative, and we're very honored that she has joined us here today. Throughout her career, Dr. Baker has focused on identifying genetic alterations that drive human cancer and determining their functional consequences. Some of Dr. Baker's discoveries are the reason why this is the time to double down on pediatric brain tumor research. We're honored that Cord Shlobom is here. Cord Shlobom is the vice chair of the National Brain Tumor Society's board of directors. He is a practicing dentist, and he became involved as a volunteer in National Brain Tumor Society after losing his daughter to a pediatric brain tumor. He recently served as a patient advocate with the Peer Review Cancer Research Program of the Department of Defense Directed Medical Research Program, and has been a terrific advocate and parent with National Brain Tumor Society. We're very honored that Danielle Leach, Senior Director of Advocacy and Government Relations and a leader at the St. Baldricks Foundation, has joined us today as a partner organization. Ms. Leach has more than 20 years' experience in the nonprofit industry. Tragically, she lost her son to a pediatric brain tumor, a pediatric high-grade glioma as well. Danielle is a dedicated volunteer as well for with National Brain Tumor Society, and St. Baldricks is truly one of the leading organizations throughout all of childhood cancer, and is really has made an enormous difference in the trajectory of childhood cancer since its inception. With no further ado, I want to give a warm invite to Scientific Director, Dr. Roger Packer.
Thank you, David. Once again, I'm Roger Packer from the Children's National Health System, and I've had the opportunity to be involved in direct brain tumor research for over 3 decades. My major motivation for remaining involved in brain tumor research isn't very difficult. You look down this table, we have 2 parents who have found the strength to continue to work and raise money for this field and raise all of people's understanding of these problems, who've lost Sydney and Mason not that long ago. And if that isn't motivation enough, I don't know what is to keep working in this field. I've been fortunate over the past 3 decades to see things improve for some subtypes of childhood brain tumors. For one of the most malignant variant, the medulloblastoma, we've raised survival rates from about 50% to 90%. So there has been some progress made. For pediatric low-grade gliomas, where we used to either have to do very destructive, often surgery, or radiation therapy that could hurt the brain, we now have new drugs that are targeting molecularly the tumors and making significant gains. The major difficulty remains in pediatric brain tumors is trying to do something for pediatric high-grade gliomas, especially the most malignant variant of that, the diffuse intrinsic pontine gliomas, or DIPGs. Unfortunately, the same type of survival rates that we quoted 30 years ago are what we are quoting now to families. And as we take a look at these children, we know despite what we do that 90% will be dead within 18 months if they have a DIPG. And that's the same as it was in 1990s and 2000s, and it is in this era. The variety of reasons for that, we didn't understand the disease. We, in many ways, thought it was just a pediatric variant of an adult disease, that whatever we did for adults with high-grade gliomas, which is the most common malignant tumor that adults develop of the central nervous system, that we could just hand that down to children. And decade after decade, we failed. And now, finally, over the past 5 to 7 years, we have the molecular tools to show us for the first time that even though under the microscope these tumors may look identical, they are molecularly different tumors. So there was no rationale to think why it would work in an adult and didn't work in a child. So that was one of the things. The second is we just didn't have the tools. We didn't have the tools that the scientists could use to understand the molecular makeup of these tumors. But that's changed over the past few years. That work by the labs that I'll talk about in a few minutes, work being done at Children's by Dr. Nazari and others, clearly can start looking at what the molecular makeup of the tumor is, which would give us, for the first time, a target to aim at, a legitimate target, not just one we sort of thought might be there. So when you put those two things together, and then the understanding that families really want to know, they want the tissue of the children who have these kind of tumors to not only help them but help others, we have finally built a nucleus where we can make real progress in this disease. And over the past 3 to 5 years alone, we've looked at and found some of the major drivers of pediatric high-grade gliomas. To genetic changes that are called oncohistones, things that change the structure of the DNA in these tumors. And interestingly, these are not fixed changes. They can be rewrapped because they're talking about how the DNA is being formatted, and it can be rewrapped to possibly control the tumor. These are great advances. The difficulty that we've had in this field is that we seem to take 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back. We understand part of the picture, but we don't understand the entire picture. And by in those ways, we can't make the progress we need to do. So when the National Brain Tumor Society came to me a few years ago and said, what do we do to try to defeat pediatric brain tumors, especially aiming at high-grade gliomas, we thought about, let's put together the best scientists in the leading laboratories, scientists that are not only leading the charge in their own laboratories, but have a track record of working and cooperating with others. And let's try to put them together to try to accelerate this. Dr. Baker, who will talk about the lab at St. Jude's and the work she's doing, as one of those scientists. A second is Dr. Stefan Pfister, who is arguably the leading pediatric brain tumor researcher in Europe. He will lead the efforts trying to look at more molecular targets, identify those targets. Dr. Nada Jaboda's laboratory in Montreal, bringing the Canadian group, has published multiple papers on high-grade gliomas and also has started working on a variety of different ways to better understand exactly what drives these tumors, the genetic contributions, and even a potential way of looking at the blood to determine if we're being effective in these tumors, something called liquid biopsies. Getting all these people to work together and knowing that they will, in addition, bring in other laboratories from across Europe, from across the United States to work together, is really sort of one of the major steps we can do to accelerate the brain tumor research. So that's what NBTS wanted us to put together, and that is what the scientists have agreed to. As David has said, they will work together. They will share their data immediately. They will not wait for the paper to be published. Things won't be held in the back. This is a collaborative working together. And anybody who's going to work with these laboratories to utilize the knowledge they have will have to agree to also share their data immediately so we have no delays. So one of the other missing or gaps or missing links in these is that sometimes it's difficult to get industry to share the drugs or even to allow us to share tissue from one laboratory to another. What the NBTS has promised as part of this initiative is that we will have a core of lawyers, scientists, and also working with industry to make sure there's immediate sharing and that we don't get hung up on material transfer agreements and this drug can't be given to one laboratory or another. So we'll be sharing across the laboratories. So we'll have the best laboratories who'll be working with a group of other laboratories outside those areas, and there will be a core to get the drugs and the specimens to these investigators and others immediately to try to accelerate the research. The missing part of that remains now how do we translate that into more effective therapy? And I really believe that the NBTS Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumor Initiative is going to be agnostic in who they work with. If there is a group, and there are multiple wonderful groups like the Pediatric Brain Tumor Consortium, the Pacific Neuro-Oncology Consortium, others, industry, that have drugs and ways to get these to patients sooner, we'll work with that group. Our goal is not only science for science sake, is to have these things that we're learning translated into better therapies, not 10 years from now, hopefully not even 5 years from now, but in the next 2 to 3 years. Maybe our first studies with these molecular studies or even the immunotherapies may not be the perfect one, but we want to stepwise make progress in this field. My role is fairly simple, and it's probably the least important. My role is to just keep pushing the scientists, pushing everyone to work together to get these things to patients sooner. We're going to be safe. We're going to hopefully not hurt anybody. We're going to use Dr. Baker's information to say is the target there, is an effective way to look at this, but we're going to try to get these out to patients. And my weakness and strength as a researcher has always been my impatience, and I'm very impatient about this disease. And my colleagues, Dr. Kilburn, Dr. Wong, Dr. Nazarian from Children's National, will tell you how impatient I am at this disease, and this is what we have to do. We have to push the envelope. We have to take the next steps. We have to work together as a community. And I thank the National Brain Tumor Society for putting this together, for trying to support these laboratories, and hopefully to make major differences in the next few years, not the next decade. And that's what I wanted to let you know from my perspective of what we're doing. And I wanted to introduce Dr. Baker from St. Jude's, who'll talk a little bit more specifically about her laboratory effort.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Packer. That was, I think, a terrific overview of the desperate clinical need for this disease and some of the exciting advances that have come along recently. So this is actually a very promising and exciting era for pediatric high-grade glioma research. As has already been mentioned, the opportunity to look across the entire genome and identify mutations in pediatric high-grade gliomas led us to some unexpected, surprising findings. And so researchers have long known that mutations in DNA are important in transforming a normal cell into a cancer cell. And so there have been years of study in trying to identify mutations that drive particular types of cancer. And the ability to sequence across the entire genome has allowed us suddenly to have a very big picture look at a disease that was very understudied previously. And the unexpected finding was that in diffuse intrinsic pontine gliomas, 80% of these tumors had the same single mutation that was important in driving cancer. This is an extremely high frequency for any particular mutation. As a cancer researcher, we get quite excited if we find a mutation in a gene that involves, say, 15 to 20% of the tumors. And this is really part of the challenge in cancer in general, and particularly in high-grade gliomas and glioblastomas. And that is that there's a lot of variation from tumor to tumor in the mutations that one might be facing. And so it's difficult to design a therapy that would address all of these tumors if all of them have different types of mutations within them. So finding a single mutation that accounts for 80% of these diseases suddenly presented an all-new unifying mechanism that drives this disease that made us think maybe there would be a useful way to target this therapeutically. The biggest surprise of that is that mutation was in a gene called histone H3. And this is a gene that's important in the way the DNA is packaged in the nucleus, and important in how genes are regulated and being turned on or turned off. And this was the first mutation in this class of proteins ever identified in human cancer. So these are very, very rare mutations, and they are found not only in diffuse intrinsic pontine gliomas, which was found at St. Jude as part of a collaboration with Washington University, but also in the high-grade gliomas that occur in children outside the brainstem. And that was found with Drs. Giabato and Pfister, the other two basic scientists who are joining together on this collaborative project. And so suddenly we had not only a very high frequency target, but a completely new method of cancer subverting normal processes and taking a normal cell and turning it into a very aggressive cancer cell. So now this opens a lot of new opportunities on multiple levels, all of which were nicely outlined by Dr. Packer. We have an all-new mechanism to contribute to cancer that we have to understand on the molecular level. If we want to really understand what drives the disease and how we can counteract that process, we have to understand exactly what this mutation does. It allows us to build better models of the disease. So if we want to understand it both at the basic level and also in terms of testing drugs, we need to develop model systems that really use all of the information that we have about the molecular underpinnings of the disease. And so the more that we know and the more that we understand, the better the models will be that we can build for this testing. This allows us to do preclinical testing of drugs that are currently approved for use in patients, and also new drugs and chemicals that are being developed as potential future drugs by drug companies and also just by researchers who are investigating avenues like natural products. And this is really important to use this in model systems. The disease, fortunately, is not very common or frequent in the general population. And that means it's very difficult to do clinical trials on a lot of different new drugs at one time. So it's very important that we have model systems that allow us to screen through a large number of opportunities and select the ones that have the best chance of working so that those go directly into the relatively small patient population where we hope we can make an impact quickly. And then finally, it's absolutely critical with all of these different types of research happening together that we have an output where we can really very quickly and efficiently translate all of this new information into a clinical trial that will actually reach the patient. Time is short, as Dr. Packer mentioned, and David also mentioned. The survival time is so very short for these children, and so the time frame is in desperate need of acceleration. So I'm very excited to be part of this Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumor Consortium. This offers me an opportunity to take advantage of this moment in time where there's a lot of new information and to work together with top researchers to try and really make a big impact on this disease for which there's been no improvement in therapy for such a long time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Danielle Leach. Here to talk about St. Baldrick's involvement here on the project. As the largest funder of private funder of childhood cancer research grants, the St. Baldrick's Foundation believes that kids are special and deserve to be treated that way. Since 2000, we've invested over $200 million in childhood cancer research grants worldwide. It's about collaboration, it's about powerful ideas, big and small, and it's about never giving up until we have cures for all kids with cancer. St. Baldrick's funds are granted to some of the world's most brilliant childhood cancer research experts and to the innovative explorers who bring with them a promise of a future of kids, future free from childhood cancers. Kids need treatments as unique as they are, and that starts with funding research that's just for them. St. Baldrick's is incredibly excited to join forces with the National Brain Tumor Society for Project Impact for much needed research for pediatric gliomas. We thank the National Brain Tumor Society for their dedication to conquer kids' cancers, and especially their work in pediatric brain tumors. Cancer takes more children's lives than any other disease in the U.S. Here at St. Baldrick's, we work hard to change that reality by funding the best research wherever it takes place in an effort to ensure every child can live a long and happy life. Project Impact is about providing hope for families. I know Dr. Packer very well. He treated my son Mason, who was diagnosed with a brain tumor at age 3 in 2006. After 15 months for battling for Mason's life using every tool in the arsenal, unfortunately Mason died at the age of 5 in 2007. Dr. Packer did everything humanly possible to help Mason survive, but like for many brain tumors, current science failed Mason. Too many times, doctors have to tell parents that there is nothing more that we can do. Project Impact aims to change that conversation dramatically for pediatric gliomas. These doctors and researchers continue to keep fighting and trying to find solutions every day in honor and in memory and in defense of kids with cancer. No one institution, foundation, or researcher can find the cure for childhood cancer alone. That is why Project Impact is so important. Collaboration is key. National Brain Tumor Society has carefully crafted this collaboration, which is based on many of the same key principles of the St. Baldrick's Foundation. We're excited to be a part of this project. Project Impact is a prime example of Vice President Biden's moonshot and what it's all about. Acceleration of research to find cures faster by working smarter together. I think how far science has come for pediatric brain tumors, even in the short time since my son has died. Project Impact is accelerating and incentivizing progress for brain tumor research for pediatric gliomas. Every day, our teams think about families who are sitting in that conference room looking for hope. National Brain Tumor Society and St. Baldrick's Foundation and all the partners in the project, partners in Project Impact, want to be able to give clinicians the ability to walk in that room and say there is something that we can do.
Thank you for those kind words. Thank you for all joining us today in the exciting, important launch of Project Impact, Defeating Pediatric Brain Tumors. I'm Cord Shlobom and a board member of the National Brain Tumor Society and a patient and parent advocate. My daughter Sydney was diagnosed with an aggressive type of brain tumor called a diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma in early 2005 at the age of 8 years old. The only treatments offered for Sydney at the time were radiation, steroids, and clinical trial with not much realistic hope. No biopsy was recommended at that time since the tumor was in the brainstem and the feeling was that the surgery was not worth the risk. The doctors told us that Sydney would probably only have about 6 months to live due to the size and nature of her tumor. As Dr. Packer has said, unfortunately today, a child would have a similar treatment options and a poor prognosis of anywhere from 9 to 18 months for those DIPG tumors. Only difference today is they are more often doing biopsies that will help move research forward as we get a better handle on the genetics of these deadly tumors. We can and have to find better treatments for these children. Today I'm going to try to tell you Sydney's story through her voice and her thoughts as she went through her brain tumor journey. It was like 10 years ago, but you still get emotional. I'm sorry. So that you can better understand what a child goes through in that journey. Her story is very similar to other boys and girls with a high-grade glioma or DIPG tumor. So these are kind of Sydney's thoughts that she said. This past week, I've been having headaches, and my parents think it's because I'm stressed out because of the test we had at school this week. I'm a great student, and I want to do well on this test, so maybe they're right. Over the weekend, the headaches have not stopped, even with the yucky medicine my mom is giving me. Now, when I'm playing with my sister Christina, I sometimes feel a little dizzy. Mom tells me we're going to have to go to the doctor Monday morning. After a quick visit at the doctor's office, we have to go to Children's Hospital in D.C. for something called a scan. All I know is I don't like the machine. It's scary, it makes a lot of noise, but I stayed still like they asked me to. After that scan, I have a room in the hospital. I like the decorations, but not the needles for the medicines that they put in my arms. Dad came after work to see me. Mom and Dad talked to the doctors in another room. Later, Dad went home with my sister to take care of my sister, Christina. Mom is staying with me at the hospital tonight for a sleepover. Mom and Dad are trying to be cheerful, but I know something is wrong in my head. My best friend's mom died of a brain tumor not long ago, so I'm not going to ask many questions about it. The doctors and the nurses are great and really trying to help me. Sydney was also a patient of Dr. Packer and the other doctors at Children's. They made this funny mask for this machine that tries to shrink my tumor. The medicine stopped the headaches, but now I'm getting fat and always hungry. At Disney World, we don't have to wait in long lines. At least the brain tumor is good for something. We even have a chance to fly first class. The chairs are really big and great food. We were so grateful when the airline moved us there. My dad is too cheap for that. Even though I want to go to school and be with my friends, it's hard because I always feel tired and just don't feel good. Sometimes I even throw up. Since my vision is worse, things look double. So they put a piece of tape on one side of the glasses, covering my one eye. It helps, but I think it looks silly. Now I can barely walk and I sit in a wheelchair. I feel like an old person in this wheelchair. I really miss running around and playing with my friends. I like it when people read books to me, even though I look like I'm sleeping. Today we celebrated my 8th birthday. I had a hard time blowing out the candles on the cake, and my sister helped me blow them out. I know everyone tried their best to help me beat this brain tumor, but I know it's not working. I even told my dad to stop giving me the drugs because they don't work, but I took them anyway since he said we can't give up. Now, back to my story. Soon after her birthday, over the next couple of weeks, Sydney mostly slept, could not eat or drink any longer. Her body is just starting to shut down. Basically, the IV medications just kept her comfortable as possible and gave her some nutrition. When I sang Sydney her lullaby on August 30th, as I did every night, I told her I loved her so much. And she was the most courageous person I know. I told her if she wanted to, it would be okay to leave us. She could go to heaven and we would be together again. That night she did pass away, so she's in peace. But that is Sydney's story. But unfortunately, any mother or father could tell a similar story and probably not cry. Their sons or daughters battle with brain cancer. Project Impact, defeating pediatric brain tumors. It's a game-changing approach for deadly pediatric brain tumors. Over the past 10 years, we've learned a lot about these tumors, as Dr. Packer and Dr. Baker have talked about, but we have to do better and get therapies for these children. The collaborative approach by the National Brain Tumor Society brings the best researchers together, both in the US and internationally, and maybe even more researchers as we go forward. The key areas needed to drive research forward have been determined by the leaders in the research field as well as industry. Now is the time to invest in Project Impact and accelerate research forward. My hope is one day when a doctor has to tell a child or parent that their child has a brain tumor, that the doctor can tell them there are treatments now to control and ultimately cure the child from one of these deadly brain tumors. I really believe that Project Impact will be a cornerstone of finding therapies for these children. And I'm very grateful that MBTS is committed to the pediatric brain tumors. Thank you for allowing me to tell you Sydney's story. If anyone would like to join our fight with Project Impact, it would be very helpful. With more funding, we can do more research and accelerate the goal of getting therapies developed for these deadly pediatric brain tumors. Thank you.
I'm going to go off script, and hopefully no one will go completely ballistic about that. But essentially what Danielle and Cord have said is what families have to say across the world thousands of times a year. They lose these children in the most painful, excruciating ways, yet these kids are heroes. They fight, they work with you, they allow you to do things that adults wouldn't let do to themselves. With families, just like Cord and Danielle, keep the fight up even after losing children, which shows unbelievable strength and compassion. We're really at a critical part in this whole story in that, as Dr. Baker said and David said, we have finally the tools to identify the molecular genetic abnormalities of these tumors. We've made more progress in pediatric brain tumor understanding in the past 5 years than we've probably made in 100 years before that. It would be a tremendous shame to lose this momentum and this opportunity to take the pain away from these children and to have them survive and live long and fruitful lives. So that's what this is all about. That's what Defeat Pediatric Brain Tumors is, and that's why we just can't let this opportunity go without trying to accelerate it and make it happen. David?
Well, thank you, Cord, Danielle, Dr. Baker, Dr. Packer, all of you. You've heard from parents. The parents have spoken. The researchers have spoken. The treating doctors have spoken. And patient advocacy has spoken. And now we ask you to join us, to invest in this program, to make a historic difference with us in the fight against America's deadliest pediatric cancer. Invite all of you to go to www.braintumor.org, where you can learn more, get the facts, get involved, and come with us on this journey. Let's make that historic difference, as Dr. Packer said. So I'd like to conclude this event by thanking everybody who showed up today, everybody in our audience. I'd like to thank our panel again, thank the staff who put this together, thank members of the press corps who came today to help us tell this story. We appreciate you. So thank you very much. And again, please join us. Thank you very much.